Mm, yay.
Hi.
Mm, hello, welcome. For all those listening or watching, I am recording this episode with Ann, who is an incredible sister friend of mine, a like gift to this planet, a sassy, silly, like incredibly open-hearted being. She is a women's empowerment coach. If you want like the most incredible cheerleader on your team, you must know her. You must receive what she has to share. And when I say must, I mean that with like such
He means
playfulness.
that like you must. And
Yes.
I don't
Healthy
caveat
dom,
that.
healthy dom.
Dom them, Tarea.
Mm. My like soft side just came out like she's amazing. You need to know her, and I'm not telling you what to do. Thank you, Anne. I needed that. I needed
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
like you being in your empowerment, coachy cheerleading, just the way
I,
that I said.
I know it's an invitation, Tarea. They get it, but also look me up. I rock.
God, you, I love you so much. I just felt like so turned on in my heart right now. See, yes, this is why Anne is so incredible and so much more. And I'm so freaking excited to chat with you today. I am excited just to make a soup out of our energies. Anne and I graduated from the same program, from Layla Martin's program together. And yeah, I didn't know that I was going to be gaining like soul family from that connection. So, oh my God, like our time in Mexico.
Dude, I know it's been 2019. Yeah. It's been some
Oh,
years now. It's crazy.
wow,
Yeah.
what a trip.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
so we're going to chat with you today about both of our journeys of conscious uncoupling. And our intention is to share, yeah, with a lot of love and vulnerability so that we can share the wisdom that we've gained and also just the real life experience from, yeah, from our time with conscious uncoupling, which like I didn't even know existed. I definitely didn't get raised to consider such things. I remember when I first started hearing that term, I was like, "What the hell is this?" But I was like so intrigued by it. So yeah, I would also like to reveal what it means for both of us, this conscious uncoupling, which to me just means just having agency and care around different ways to be in relationship and change relationship dynamics outside of the societal norms.
Yeah, I love that. I don't even think I've ever like even really like thought about the actual definition for me, but I think for me it just means like ending in a really loving way. And just being really raw and authentic and like processing it all. And conscious uncoupling, I think generally means you want to continue in a relationship with this person in just a different format. So you're no
Mm.
longer, life partners or romantic partners, but you want to become friends. And what does that look like? And how can you do that in like a very loving and honoring way to both yourself and your partner or your ex-partner, I should say. And yeah, it's a wild ride. It's it can be challenging, but I think it's fucking worth it if you really love this person and you aren't ending on a bad note, like you're ending because it just didn't work, not because the love isn't still there.
Mm. Hmm. And what you said about because you really love this person, I would add on as well because you really love yourself. And of
Hmm.
course, there are like so many different ways to love ourselves. That could sometimes mean like never talking to somebody again.
Totally.
But to have both be so present, I think is, yeah, a huge part of it. Because I know in the past I've pushed away out of hurt and that ended up causing more hurt to myself. So it's like a very painful act of self-love to not go into those old patterns.
Mm.
that
Yeah.
can cause me to feel alone and isolated even more so than to keep my heart open.
Totally. And just knowing where you're at, right? Like, I had a 6-year relationship before this one, and we don't talk anymore. We ended fine. There was no ill will. And we like would see each other at group things every once in a while, but we didn't like continue our connection. But I wasn't
Mm.
at that age able to. Like, I just like wasn't, I didn't have the maturity to like continue into that friendship. And this is the first ex that I've wanted to stay friends with. And was we both had
Mhm.
the emotional maturity and desire to do that because it takes both of you equally putting in the work to form this new relationship and understanding that it's going to be rocky at points because it's just challenging and feelings are going to come up. And so you both need to be able to be willing to do that work and hold each other in it as well.
Mm. Yeah, it's crazy how radical it is. It's like going against like societal norms, which blows my mind. Like how like staying in connection and love is like going against societal norms. To me, it even um it almost like pokes at that like monogamous mindset that is very rooted in that you don't even have emotional or like love or intellectual space for anybody. While like if you were to get into a new relationship, it's this idea that you can't have any connection with your exes, very black or white, segregated, like the monogamous mindset going so far as spilling out into like friendships or exes. So this to me feels like it's going against even just the mindset of like the societal norm. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know if you'd agree.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like not this isn't necessarily a good thing, but obviously there's so many like people who have to co-parent, right? And like they have to maintain that connection whether they really want to or not. So I think that there's like a lot of examples of people like where you're like, oh, clearly you're, I think, because the fear, right? If you continue to like be friends with an ex to your future partner is like, are you still in love? And do I have things to worry about? Like those are the emotions and questions that come up. And like, I'm sure I might have that question too. Like, that's so
Oh,
natural
for
because you're
sure.
like, if you get along so well, why aren't you still together? And
Mhm.
like, I think that that's a natural question to grapple with, especially as a future partner. But really, I haven't had to cross that bridge yet because neither of us have current partners. Um, but I will be respectful and honor, like, that'll be the next bridge that we have to cross. And like you do have to factor in, whoever that other person's feelings and emotions are and navigate, what does that mean for our friendship now? And hopefully that's not an issue, but if it is, you will become fluid and figure it out together. But yeah, like I get it. Like I've had jealousy around, like I get I get that reaction, and like it can be
That
hard. And like sometimes I'm like I was crying, and being like, we do have such deep love and connection, and it's still not it. But like that can be hard to hold, right? So like if it's hard for me to hold, it might be hard for a future partner to like really wrap their head around.
this will be our like year into the future podcast recording. It's like how to hold space for staying in a relationship with your exes.
While in
Like,
the relationship.
yeah.
Totally. Dude, yes. Yeah. Yes.
We're not there yet. Mm. Hmm. I love that. Thank you. That's a beautiful, compassionate, full spectrum of just the humanness that comes with being vulnerable enough to stay in connection and then facing all of the challenges that come with that.
Yeah.
And they're not wrong or bad challenges. They're valuable challenges, but they are challenges. And I very much understand why somebody would not want to choose conscious uncoupling
Yeah.
because of it takes like what 10 times more work than just a regular grief and loss because you're not ignoring or running away from facing all of the love and grief and loss that comes with that. And you don't have that like massive separation in your mind or your heart that you can kind of pretend like you have when you're not conscious uncoupling,
Yeah.
even if you don't. Because,
Yeah.
like, I don't know about you, but like, my exes still have a very special place inside of my heart and sometimes my mind as well. So it's not like they just have ever disappeared for me. They're like a part of me. So, but then at least I could pretend maybe that there's like separation and distance, which can sometimes feel like there's a little bit less emotional labor because there is.
Yeah, and they're also like it's just more of a quote unquote clean break in that you're not like constantly having to like you can kind of cut the cord, so to speak. But
Mm,
like when you're still in connection with someone and forming a friendship, it's there's still that connection and you're cutting a cord, the romantic cord, but you're not cutting all the cords because you're still energetically attached with this person because you're still in relationship with this person. Um,
mm,
that is
mm.
challenge, you know?
Man, it's like ninja training.
Yeah.
It's like relationship ninja training. You have to cut the old cords and make room for new ones and like trust the cords of connection that are left over are like what's serving your new type of connection. Because yeah, it's just like a change in your connection, but the connection is still alive and active and like constantly growing. Um, yeah, it's like emotional ninja training.
Yeah. And for me, I did have to cut the cords for a while. Like, I mean, you know, but I took 3 months with no speaking, no contact. And then, you know, we had a call to like check in, see how we were doing. And I asked for another 3 months of no contact because I actually needed that like clean. I don't want to like, you know, we blocked each other on social media. Like he moved to another city. So I was also lucky to have like physical space as well and didn't have to like run in. But like I needed that to cut those cords a little bit more severely and give myself that space to feel my feels without having his interference, you know, and relying on him, you know. And then, you know, at 6 months, I was like, okay, I can become a little more fluid with this and we can like begin to maybe connect, like speak a little bit more. So it's important to understand and tune into what you need as an individual because it's different for everyone. And for him, he was ready to talk sooner than that, but I had to stand firm in my boundaries because I was like, I know that if I talk too soon, I'm going to not heal in the way I need to, and I'm going
Mm,
to not allow myself to like move on. Like I'm gonna be like wishing and hoping that like we could get back together. And I was like, if I can give myself the space, like clean space I need, then I can like come back into this relationship from just like a more centered, grounded place and like accept the reality of what is, instead of like pining.
mm, mm. I'm just gonna like soak all that in. Like, I just know how much nuanced emotions went into that, what you just said in like a few sentences.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't easy, that's for sure. Yeah.
My like my like inner child that got poked at, maybe the most extreme she's ever been poked at her entire life of like fear of abandonment during like the initial months, which yeah, for me I'm at the beginning journey of my uncoupling and and like a vet now.
Yeah, for anyone listening, I'm a little over a year out. But damn, the first 3 months were brutal. They were so hard. And I remember the first like week, I feel like I felt like a wounded animal. Like I was like literally like sobbing in bed. And I was like, I felt like my heart had been ripped out of my chest. And like, yeah, it was hard.
Hmm.
Yeah. And it's really hard when like you do love each other so much when you're ending. I think that can make it harder because it's like it's easy to want to default to hate. Like, I fucking hate you, like go through that anger phase of a breakup. Like I
Mm.
didn't really have that so much because there was so much love. And so it kind of just went to the like sadness part.
Were you ever angry that you weren't like that you didn't have something to be mad at? Like,
A little bit. I was just like, are you fucking kidding me? Because the anger phase is empowering. You know what I mean? You're like, yeah, let me get hot. Fuck you. Like, I want you to have regrets. Like, all that shit. And I just like, I don't know. I just felt tired. I was like, I'm just sad and I'm tired and I don't have that. Um, but the this is actually hilarious. The one thing I will do sometimes, or like did do, like is me and Irene, who's my twin, we would do like the petty talk sometimes, and they're like, you would just like like pretend you're like 10 years out, and just like literally living,
mm.
thriving. And then it's so silly. And then you're like walking on the sidewalk, looking fucking hot, living your dream life, and you like run into them and you're like, oh hey, how are you doing? And it's like
Mm.
just but like you're in your best place. You're like, oh, that's so great. I'm so glad you're doing well. But like you just feel so confident that you're just like so beyond that, like wanting that relationship. And like
Mm.
it does feel good to kind of play in that like little energy sometimes of just being, like
What, yeah, what age is this energy? Is there like an age to this energy?
good question. I mean, it's like probably that you're like kind of like your bitter teenager or rebellious teenager who's like kind of
Yes.
wants to be petty. Like you're like, oh, well, I just sold my company for $10 million. But how are you doing? Like, it's just like it's so petty, you know what I mean? But it's just fun. Like it's a little bit playful to get that like kind of like anger, whatever, out, but like in a like still playful manner. Um and like just like a reminder, like you are gonna move on, and like it's not that I want to be better than, but like your pettiness sometimes does want to move on first, or like, be like, oh, I am thriving now that you're not here. Like I do have that pettiness come up sometimes for sure.
Well, I'm glad that you gave space for your inner petty teenager to play and have fun because, okay, all of those parts that are coming up in connection to massive loss and massive heartbreak and grief is, in my opinion, 100% a part of the healing process.
Totally.
So if you would have like shamed her, blocked her, or like even gone into a bit of that like spiritual bypassing, like,
Yeah.
no, I can't feel this,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like that might come up later in the next run,
Yeah.
right?
Totally.
Maybe she's the whole point, maybe like, yeah, you to me, especially from like witnessing you, are like the whole point. You are your greatest love story. So like
Mm.
inner petty teenage you is like so like worthy of being heard and loved and being like silly with your twin sister. Like how special is that? And for everyone listening, like I know that Anne is incredibly aware and listening and aligned with like her truth and love and care and is able to hold that nuance of that part of her and also able to hold so much compassion and love at the same time, which I think is the challenging dance of conscious uncoupling is you're not going into one or the other, you're holding everything that arises with like compassion and acceptance.
Yeah, yeah, totally. It's like you can have the like, fuck you, I'm gonna get that revenge body, but also see it for what it is of like, I also still hold love for myself and him, and like, it's okay to play with that anger. It's okay to feel it and just not get completely sucked into it where it's consumed and you're resentful and like all these things that like, if you don't process at all the emotions that are coming up can kind of get sticky.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 100%. Like whatever gets revealed during that time has value. And yeah, don't get stuck in any one of the processes would
Yeah.
be my my suggestion.
Yes. Totally. Yeah. And the same with the
Don't get
sadness.
stuck on a like broken loop. Just like keep
Yes.
feeling, keep processing, because if it doesn't get felt, then it's gonna keep coming back, then you might get stuck.
Yes. And also like allow yourself to go into the depths and feel the sadness and the grief and all of it, but also don't get stuck there either, like make
Mm.
space for joy and support and love. Cause like it can be tempting to want to wallow in that fucking ball of sadness and grief because you're just like feel broken, but also it's like that doesn't serve you either, like allow yourself to go there, but don't lay down there and die. You know what I mean? Like go do things that bring you joy. Like,
This is where I like my version of your inner bitter teenager was like, I'm gonna lay here and die and nobody's ever
yeah,
gonna
yeah, yeah, yeah.
like I had to let her I had like I don't know what her name is, just like sad girl drama queen. Like I had to let her have her shining moment.
For sure. And you let her have her moment, but you didn't then let her consume your entire life.
No.
Yeah. So it's just important to like feel into when is enough feeling and processing happening versus allowing it to just like consume you. And like it's that pendulation, like finding the like going into the feelings, but then coming back and remembering like there's so much good in life and like, and then allowing yourself to feel again and come back and like also recognizing like it might be healthy even to numb out slightly sometimes because there's a lot of emotion. It's okay to fucking binge watch some Netflix for a second. Like you don't have to
Yes.
the
Thank
time.
you,
Oh,
Frankie
you
and
know what I mean?
Grace.
Like you don't have to do this raw fucking chord forever and ever either. Like it's okay to like be a human. You know what I mean? Yeah, like
Oh, you're so awesome.
it's okay.
I want to circle back to like finish one sentence about when you were explaining that you asked for 3 months of no contact so
Mhm.
that like you could take care of yourself. And then once you hit that 3 months, you asked for another 3 months. I really wanted to just speak like, yeah, like my inner child fear of abandonment, which got like surfaced so intensely, is just like knows how much work would have went into you rewriting the narrative of whatever that meant for you to choose yourself over and over again during those first 3 months and during those next 3 months. Like, so I just want to say, yeah, to me that feels so brave. And I have been witnessing you and getting my own strength and bravery, like finding it within myself. And I'm just like in awe and gratitude that you were willing to choose yourself so radically, even if it probably hurt so much. And I know that it did hurt. So yeah, my inner child's like, I can't believe you did that. It's so awesome. Well, my higher self is also like, we're doing that too. um, there was one other thing. Oh yeah, okay. So like you spoke about not staying in just the sadness and like not even staying just in like the joy and the pleasure, but just allowing everything to come through. I'm curious how you know when it's time to move. For me, I know as soon as it's gone from my body to my mind, this is
Mm,
when I'm going into story.
yeah.
And I know that I have actually felt the sadness. And now I'm just going into story, which is when I could get stuck.
Yes.
And the same with the joy. If I'm in the joy and it's now in my head, like, oh, I need to stay happier. No, this like, and like sort of pushing away the sadness, then that's when I know it's time to actually keep moving, whether it's moving out of joy and back into whatever grief or sadness is coming up, or out of sadness and grief and then into joy. So that's how I know when to not block the organic experience and not stay stuck. Which I had done in a previous separation. I remember the first time I felt joy, I had like shamed myself and blocked myself because this was like love of my life, thought we were going to get married and like have children, like a former partner. which has been coming up a lot in this process. Like it's like the grief thread is tugging at that and
Yeah.
is like so connected to my experience of loss with this uncoupling of my 5 year relationship. But I remember in that previous relationship, I think I literally cried for a month straight and like was in like cave girl mode. And then I came out and I experienced a bunch of joy.
Mhm.
And I immediately was like, that is so wrong. If you experience that joy, it means you don't love that person, which now I know is absolutely not true. But at the time, I didn't know that grief does not exclude joy and pleasure and love and laughter. And it actually caused so much more pain and suffering by not allowing that like ebbing and flowing aliveness that like grief and heartbreak, the medicine of it brings. So yeah, I would love to hear from you. Like, how do you know when it's organically time to shift or when you might be pushing or like kind of avoiding?
I think it's very similar, probably because we're both somatic based coaches. But I feel it in my body, and I do like I try to breathe through it. I try to physically shake. I try to move. Sometimes I just hug a ball, a blanket if it's like grief, and just sit there and like
Ooh.
cry. Um, but yeah, it's definitely when I start to notice myself really going into memories. And I'm like, oh, now I'm just really like stoking the fire. We're like camping out here. Like you physically felt it. And now you just want to continue stoking that emotional fire, whether
You
it's
want to stay
anger,
warm by the
whether
fire.
it's sadness, whether it's anger, whatever it is. Like when I start to go into the memories, because like that's when I know I'm like, oh, we're just like we're feeding that right now. And like sometimes I allow that to happen. So I'm like, you know what? It's just like I don't know, feels good and needs to happen. And then other times I'm like, okay, bring your attention and awareness back to the physical sensation in your body. And like that's all we're focusing on. Um, and breathing and moving and like and then if I'm having trouble, I keep finding my brain going back to story. I'm like, okay, come back, or let's actually just go work out. Like let's go distract yourself in some way, like because my mind wants to focus on something, and like I'm just going to recognize that and acknowledge it and like use different tools to like kind of keep my mind from like drawing me back. I also find journaling can be really helpful for that, just like getting all the mind chatter out on the page so that you're not stuck in the loop. So I think, but yeah, it's definitely a bodily experience of like if I actually stick with the sensation and move it through me and just feel it, it'll pass, and then it might come back like 2 minutes later, but like it does pass. There's like little breaks that happen if I actually just stick with the physical sensation, and that's when I know. But yeah,
Hmm.
similar.
Hmm. I love what you said about it might come back after 2 minutes because that gives like people listening an idea that you're allowed to feel sadness and then feel joy for 2 minutes and then have your sadness come back 2 minutes
Mhm.
later. You don't know how long it's going to last. And it's not about that. It's about allowing your authentic experience versus trying to control, manipulate, or block the truth of what's actually happening, which is, yeah, probably again, like when I think one of the foundations of the conscious uncoupling part, and then also having somatic training. Oh my God, I just recommend like any access to like somatic healing tools or like doing acupuncture, like things to like get in your body and allow the grief to be moved through you.
And
Um,
I just want to add, like, sometimes you have to just compartmentalize because you have fucking life to do. And
yeah.
like, you have to go to work, you have to take care of your kids, whatever it is. Like, you're not gonna always be able to like fully feel every emotion to the fullest extent that it needs. Like, sometimes you have to just be like, you've got 2 minutes, and like, and then you kind of gotta wrap it up. And that can actually like, I think that can actually be helpful sometimes because it
Mhm.
does like, it's like, the little like pendulation. It's like just releasing the faucet a little bit so it can feel safer and more contained. And you like don't have to be feeling how I feel sometimes can be exhausting, right? So it's like it's okay to be like time box it for a second and then like I'm gonna move on and focus on something else for a bit and then come back. And like sometimes you can't
Mm,
control it. Like I've had tears come up on work calls before. Like I just had to own my experience. But sometimes it can feel good to kind of like contain it for a second as well.
hmm. Yeah, having that even like if somebody's not used to being in touch with their emotions or their grief, to have that container is offering structure and safety. And I find what works for me is if I'm not in a space where I can feel my sadness or anger or whatever is coming up in a way that would be the most supportive to it, then I'll let it know that I'm going to come back to it later,
Hmm.
whether it's later on that night or the next day or whenever I know I'm actually going to have the space to be able to be with it. I find
Yes.
just giving it, like letting it know that I am listening
Yeah,
and I'm not just going to shut down from it, or it's going to build up in the body. It's going to show
yes,
up in the form of tension,
for sure.
pain. So making
Yeah,
sure that you are offering that space for it, even
yes.
if you can't in in the moment, because to me, I also think that's um, a radical act of self-love and goes against the capitalist mindset of there's no time for the human experience. There's no time for grief. So having that balance of like, yeah, I can't be with you right now.
Yeah.
And I am going to carve out this time later. I'm not
Yes.
just going to fill every day and every moment with a to-do thing, because
100%.
sometimes even the self-care to-dos are actually blocking
Yeah.
that stillness to just be and feel.
Yes. 100%. Yeah. It's like do the things you must. Like the things you like have to do, right? To be a human in this world we live in. But it is important to carve out time to feel. And the more you can do that and allow yourself to do that, again, it's not like putting a time frame on this, but I've found that I think you can move through things faster when you actually allow
Mm,
yourself to feel instead of like shoving it down and like distracting, busy, because it's going to hit you at some point. And it's just
mhm.
going to be a later point that's prolonging the process.
I had this one moment because I had been being trained for that, and so have you. It's like, yeah, if we actually feel in the moment and release in the moment, then it's gonna cost us less time in the future to actually process and release this. But I was like, is that really true? Because I have an ocean of sadness inside of me. So I'm just like, are you sure I'm not gonna literally sit here and cry forever for the rest of my life? So I was actively practicing that. I took myself away for an entire month away from my community, as you know, and and then Ann and I got to hang out in person. That was awesome. Um, but yeah, I took myself into a new environment. I went to California for a month. I live in British Columbia, Canada, Lekwungen territory. I took myself away for a month just so that I could like really be with myself. And one of my biggest fears was that I wasn't going to cook and I wasn't going to be able to eat. They were just like the biggest threads of my relationship, my biggest love language. And I was like, I just felt so much grief imagining not cooking with like my best friend, love of my life. I was like, there's no way, like, I'm never gonna be able to eat again. I was
Uh,
like, I literally cried in front of the bananas in the grocery store in California. I was like, because I would never buy bananas for myself. I would
oh,
only buy bananas for, for my partner.
yeah.
So I was so worried about that. And I remember the first time that I took lettuce out of the fridge of the like beautiful house that I was staying at in San Francisco area. Um, I took lettuce out. I was gonna make myself a salad, and it's like I forgot until that moment that like salad was my the partner that I just uncoupled from's like favorite thing,
Mhm.
and I was like, looking down at the salads. Like I forgot, like life just felt normal for a second, and it all came
Yeah.
crashing down.
Oh,
I'm
I know.
like,
When you were saying
what?
that, I was like, oh God, that is how grief works. That's how, like, it's just like you're like boop doop doop, thinking you're fine. And then that one stupid small whatever it is, like it when it hits, it's like, oh, I didn't realize that was gonna trigger this, but here I am. Yeah,
I was
yeah,
like looking down at the lettuce, and I'm like, and just started crying, like deep, deep wailing tears. And I was like, I am never going to be able to eat lettuce again. I am doomed. I am screwed. Like, this was my reaction. But then that higher self knowing and the like all the somatic training was like, all we have to do right now. Okay. So I actually clocked it. I was like, do I have time to go into this?
mhm,
Do I have any meetings today? Do
mhm,
like,
mhm.
okay, my agenda was to, I had to like skip 3 weeks of recording my podcast because every week I just was debilitated. So I was like, okay, do I really need to do my agenda today, or can I stop and
Yeah,
cry? And I checked it, and the answer was yes. Let's look at the lettuce and let's fill out that neural pathway that
mhm,
tells me that lettuce equals love, safety,
mhm.
home. So I had this experience of just like on the kitchen floor, bawling my eyes out, and this like like inner drama sad girl. I was like, I'm never gonna be able to eat lettuce again. Like just like so much sadness. And I'm like, how does like it's like salad, like lettuce, I didn't realize meant love and
Yeah,
home to me until that moment. And then I had to let go of that.
yeah,
And I wasn't sure what that would be like. And it actually was only 10 minutes.
yeah.
It was
Oh,
like a 10-minute time frame, but those 10 minutes felt like a lifetime
yeah.
because you enter this liminal space, right? Where like the only thing that existed were me and the lettuce.
It's weird how like yeah, I'm getting teary, but like I was like that was true. So I used to make my partner like coffee every morning and like then give him like a morning squeeze. And probably for like the first 3 months, I swear, like making coffee every morning, I like got kind of sad because I was just like, but we're really, I mean, I'm so blessed. My twin sister moved in with me, so she let me squeeze her and she would squeeze me.
Yeah.
And so I got to kind of like embody a different morning routine in this really beautiful way. But yeah, man, those little triggers are like, oh, they're hard when you first are going through a breakup.
I feel that in my belly right now so deeply, this like ache in my belly for your, it's almost like the opposite, like it's like compersion, but the opposite is like I feel as if I'm experiencing that with you right now. Oh, because like I drink coffee every morning, and I remember this was a thing that like um that my former partner, it still feels weird to say that,
Mhm,
but that
mhm.
my former partner was like feeling the grief around that won't be, yeah, that won't be a part of the house anymore because that's what I brought. So it's like feeling the grief of both ends of like what you brought to the relationship, the little tiny like things that you do for each other, and then also what they brought to you. Like it's
Mhm.
like there's grief in both. There's grief in not being able to provide
Yeah,
that like love language and
yeah,
then not receiving those little things.
yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
Oh man, I felt like everything stripped away down to like the most basic joys of life. It was like, yeah, it is what matters here. How is it that it feels like making coffee or eating lettuce together feels more important than anything else? Like,
It's just, it's not even like more important. It's just like hitting these like little rituals you have as a couple. And so it's just when that's broken, it just remind you know, you go to this thing that always used to do together and it's like, ooh, like I feel that, you feel the loss in those moments because they were something that were just like something you did together all the time. And yeah, it's you get to rewrite them, right? Like now I have these beautiful morning routines with my twin sister and like I love it. And like,
Yeah.
I cherish those mornings with her. But yeah, when you're first, especially like the very beginning, it's like, ooh, you really feel it.
I want to normalize to anybody that is going to go through this or has a similar, yeah, just, I don't know, just any loss or grief that during that change, you're like in this period of change, you're in a liminal phase, your entire neural pathways are rewiring to orient yourself to life. Like my brain used to look at that lettuce and translate it to like this person, my best friend, like person that I deeply, deeply love. And now it had to reorient itself in the
Mhm.
same way you did with the coffee and your sister. And that this is a part of the process and it can be really exhausting. You're working in overtime. Your brain is literally like, it's almost as if my brain was was going through construction every single day. And I I remember like going into meditation and like literally feeling like there was electricity like up here in my forehead as if I could feel like my neurons just like rapid firing all the time. It was so exhausting and like a deeply spiritual experience to have what felt like everything stripped away and have
Yeah,
to find that sense of belonging again.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just reminding me like how important it is to use the tools and ground into the practices that bring you home to yourself and like nourish you. Cause like it can be really easy to want to grab for the things that are like give you those instant gratifications or like make you feel like good in the moment, but like deplete you. And so it's like really choosing those things that like nourish you, like leaning into your friendships, like leaning into the support, like of coaching or therapy, like grounding practices. Like I put my feet in the sand and like met Mama Earth and like felt her support and like the meditation and the movement, like really having a consistent exercise practice and like sleeping and like those have such an impact on your emotional state. So like really choosing to like ground into those things can like help you through
Mm,
the process.
mm, mm. Yeah, I would say all of those things are what like kept me from like not just surviving, but in a weird way, thriving in the experience. Yeah, very similar for me as well.
Yeah, and I just reminded myself too, like I was like, in my two breakups ago, I guess, I was like, I never want to love again. And that was the end of my first true love. So like that was like,
Mm,
and I questioned, was I ever gonna love again? All of these things. And with this one, even in the pain, I was like, this, I love love and love is worth it. And like this pain that I'm feeling just is a reflection of how strong the connection was and what a beautiful relationship we had. And so like reminding myself of the beauty of the feeling of it all. And like, there is a
mm,
beauty in the pain, there is a beauty in the tears. So I think just allowing yourself and anchoring into that, like, this is just proof of the love you felt. And you will love again.
mm,
And like, yeah, that was like helped me through it all too.
mm, mm. Keeping the heart open,
Yeah,
staying
yes,
open.
yes.
I remember I kept telling myself that, or I kept having this sense, okay, these were during the times where I could feel that I was going into head or going into story or avoidance. And then I kept reminding myself that I will never have this experience again
Mm,
because
mm,
I won't. I'm not going to be in this exact
oh,
situation, uncoupling from this exact person
oh,
in this
yeah.
exact way. So I can either fully be here and honor my experience that I will never get to experience again, and it felt weird to say like get to experience this, and it felt so true and still feels so true that if I don't allow myself to fully be here, then I'm going to look back and only have been half-assed a part of my own conscious choice to
Yeah.
uncouple and to be so alive and a part of life in all of the massive ups and downs. Yeah, this is like something that I would say is the biggest difference between this uncoupling and any other past breakups is just the willingness to be so fully in the experience and so fully present.
Yeah, and you're just reminding me, like, so we did coaching, we did therapy, to really try and come to clarity of like, are we ready for marriage or are we ready for ending? And we probably came to the decision maybe like 2 months before he moved to New York. So we like knew we were breaking up, but then we had 2 months of living together and we decided to just continue dating until that end point. And a lot of people were like, oh my God, like, how can you keep doing that? Like, just couldn't. And I was like, I mean, we're together till he leaves because I am fully committed to keeping my heart completely open and in love and loving
Mm,
until the very end, until he walks out that door. And that was hard, but it also made for such a beautiful last 2 months together because it was like
mm,
when you could release those expectations of each other and like the things, because a lot of it is like what you want from the other, right? But when you fully let go and you can now just accept each other for who you are without expectations for who they need to be for you in the future, it just opens up this really beautiful, loving space. And so I'm glad we got to end with so much love. Even though, yeah, is it hard knowing you're ending and still showing up with an open heart? Absolutely. And like the last couple nights were the hardest, obviously, but I'm really thankful that I was able to keep my heart open and love till the very end.
mm. I'm soaking all of that in and just like feeling that so closely from my own experience, just like how much love and intimacy I got to experience during the like actual period of uncoupling. It's like gut-wrenchingly, like nauseatingly beautiful how much like love and intimacy and connection was able to be experienced during that time.
Yeah, it's also kind of a mind fuck because you're like, wait, now we're experiencing all the flow and love that we were like not having.
Mm.
But you're still like, yeah, we're in this very unique container now where there's like literally no expectation of each other. And like, that's not, realistic as much as we'd love it to be. So that's also,
It's like doing plant medicine. It's like not realistic and sustainable to do it every single day, but
yes.
when you're in it, you're like, these are the end. This is the end of everything. This will constantly be an uncoupling.
Exactly. Yes, 100%. Yeah, you're like in that glow afterwards, and you're like, life is
Ah,
expansive and and it's like,
ah.
and that's so beautiful and that's real, but it's also not sustainable. Like, yeah.
I remember I had like one of my massive takeaways from all of the expansion and aliveness that I got to experience in that month of uncoupling. Like, again, like I feel just like nauseous thinking about it because like I miss this person so like I like miss my human so deeply. We're still in our period of no contact, just to like give listeners context. I'm very fresh in my process. Well, also I feel like a fucking old crone in my process. Like I've lived 1,000 lifetimes, um, and yet still so fresh in it. Such a baby, baby grief baby. But was like the wisdom of being so radically honest that that time gave me. I would recommend anybody in a
Yeah.
relationship with themselves, with their partner, with a friend, with multiple partners, with a family, is to encourage what is radical truth and honesty, and where do you believe that it's actually not going to set you free and
Mm,
like can you adopt the belief that it is going to set you free? Because truth, if it is truth, then it is going to set you free. And if it's not truth, then the truth will get revealed. This was like a massive takeaway for me, which was just like how radical honesty actually makes way for more eros and
Yeah,
aliveness and truth and
totally.
love and connection and intimacy and like, bah!
Yeah, totally. And because I feel like when you're, in the process of choosing whether to uncouple or not, or you're in the thick of the relationship coaching or therapy, and like everything it can feel like you're walking on eggshells, and like you don't want to, if you're like still in the wanting to keep the relationship, it can be like, oh, if I say the wrong thing, like, or can I really say this? And like it can take, because you are both raw chords, right? So it's like it can be hard to really speak your full truth. And I think when you can finally get to that point, you have set the container and gone deep enough, and you can actually just say the things, it's so freeing. And now on the other, 1 year later, like I just saw my ex, I was telling you, yes, 2 days ago, because he was in town, and the amount of honesty and like truth that we're able to tell each other is amazing. And like I've just been so honest about where I am emotionally throughout this entire year. And
Mm,
it's been so refreshing. And it's like, yeah, I'm unwilling to hide or pretend I'm further along
mm,
than I am, or like feeling different than I am. And like just being honest about your experience without putting anything on your ex. It's just like, this is where I am. It like
mm,
allows them to meet you in that actual real place, hold you, or give you the space you need, whatever it is. But like, you can't, for me, it's like your friendship should be based on honesty, and like you're really raw and real with how you feel with your friends. So you need to be raw and real with how you feel with your ex partner, because they're now becoming a friend, right? So it's like, yeah, I think that is, and that's actually something that's so beautiful about this relationship. It's like, you know, being able to be that raw and honest with someone, and then being able to see all of it and hold you is really beautiful. And yeah, just appreciative of how far I've been able to come with my ex.
mm. It honestly, like, there's absolutely no way that that's not rewriting entire lineages, like that's not rewriting like attachment from your childhood. Because like I think the thing that holds us back from, or at least has held me back in what I've witnessed in my clients and like all my, yeah, anyone doing this work, like what holds us back is our attachment, our imprinting from childhood, because we're trying to protect ourselves. We're trying to be loved or feel safety and belonging. So by facing that radical honesty and truth with somebody who loves you and supports you and cares for you and is willing to do a conscious uncoupling, like somebody who's already consented to that and is like
Yeah.
long for that journey, is, I imagine, a safe person to rewrite that story, that it's not safe to speak your truth or else this person's going to leave me, or it's not safe to have needs or wants or else I'm going to appear too much and then that person's going to leave me, you know. So it's also an incredible opportunity to rewrite stories so that you can expand fully into this deepest love and highest truth, which again is not for the faint of heart. It's a brave journey to choose that. I couldn't choose anything else at this point. For whatever reason, I was given that drive and desire, or that calling.
Mhm.
For me, it feels like a must, even when I don't want to do it, which is so infuriating. And yeah, the conscious, I don't know, like a lot of hurt arose in that month that was able to be held with like so much love and safety and security. And and 100% I trust that that helped me heal some of my childhood abandonment trauma, and this feeling like I'm not worthy or not good enough or not loved. 100% gave me a chance to rewrite that narrative and like also meet my ferocity of my bigness and my emotions with such love.
Yeah, there's something really beautiful to having like as you uncouple, right? Like the uncoupling process of being able to hold each other in it and like process together. And then and then when you are uncoupled, like taking the space you need to process on your own and
Yeah.
like hold yourself through that. And like it doesn't mean that that other person isn't there, but like finding your footing again in your own
Mm,
sovereignty and like power. And then, later on you can still process things as they come up, but like it doesn't, you've processed together and now you get to go on your own, knowing that like they're still in your life, you could reach out, but you're also like practicing putting on your own, like stepping into your own power and like,
mm,
you are kind of separating still, it's not
mm.
that you continue to process with them forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that combination of both. Like your like the conscious uncoupling process is like you get to hold each other, or whether it's two people or multiple people, you get to hold each other in love, and then you get to hold yourself, and then you also get to be held by your community and your friends. For me, all of those pieces are so important now at this
Oh
stage
yeah.
in my life. Whereas before, I would either do it completely on my own, or I would just process with that partner and not let anybody else in, or I would like heavily rely on people to like rescue me. And
Yeah.
those were like more of the things that I had access to before I expanded my mind and my awareness on how things could be. And now they're all three, it just feels so vital.
Totally. And it can be like, in some of our past calls, we've taken time to just reflect on the relationships and the learnings together and
Mm,
also apologize for certain things. And that's been really beautiful to give
mm,
and also receive of like, hey, here's the learning that I've kind of taken away and I wish I had shown up differently and I apologize for that. And that can be really healing. Not that you need to continue going back to process with each other, but like if you have organic things that come up and the person is open to sharing, that can also be kind of nice. Like to
mm.
continue to process as your relationship evolves into whatever next iteration you're going into.
Mm. There's so many different ways to approach this.
Mhm.
Yeah, there is so many different ways to approach this, which is again why I think it's so exciting that we get to talk about this and share information regarding our experience. Um, and I want to know what it was like for you, Anne. So Anne went through this conscious uncoupling, yeah, maybe a year or less before me. And I definitely had her as like maybe a bit of a mentor in that. So I want to know what it was like for you when you first heard that that's the choice that I was making as well. Because you witnessed me a lot in my relationship. So what was that like for you when you heard that I was choosing that as well?
Yeah, I think I was really proud of you. I think that you
Aw.
and your ex had put in a lot of work to make it work and like really given it all your heart. And it just wasn't serving either of you anymore. And it was like, from the outside, I was like, and obviously having gone through it and being like, I believed in my choice was the right choice, like being like, I really think that you guys will benefit from a break, and like maybe eventually you come back together, who knows? But I think you need space and a breakup to really like heal, grow, and into the new versions of yourself. And I was really proud and happy. I was like, I think this is really needed. Yeah.
Mm. Mm. I like that word. Because yeah, it is brave work.
Yeah.
I was definitely exhausted. I still
It's
am exhausted.
exhausting. Trying to figure shit out and being in a decision is exhausting. And I
Yeah,
don't
I
think
was in
they're meant
decision for
to be. Yeah.
so long.
Yes.
I
Same.
remember the first time that it landed, like, because I was trying to figure out, like, what's the right thing to do? Like, because I was like so, like, the love was like so massive. I was like, how could this ever be
Yeah.
the right thing to do? And then it was listening to Heidi Prieb's YouTube video one day, and she talked about how when you have so much attachment and so much love and connection, that it's almost feels almost impossible to admit incompatibility,
Yes.
and that there's a need to be logistical sometimes. And
Mhm.
that just like tripped me up so much, but like stopped me in my tracks in the way that I needed was like, wait a minute. It can be so simple as like there are things that we're incompatible in right now that
Yeah.
are not allowing us to evolve and expand in the ways that we both need.
Yeah.
And we can be so like we can just have so much love and it still be not what we need right now.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah.
And I think you watched me go through like so much process of trying to really prove that that was true, but you're like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's true.
I mean, it's just, yeah, like, I mean, from the outside, it's clearer, right? But like when you're in it, it can feel so hard to make that decision because there is so much love and you almost like gaslight yourself a little bit because you're just like trying to convince yourself like that it can work and all these things because it is really hard to admit that maybe you're not compatible when there is this deep soul connection and love.
Mm,
It's really hard. And I run through my journals. I did the same thing. Like I witnessed you doing it. We're like, but and this and this. And I'm like, uh-huh, uh-huh. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna let her get to her decision whenever it is. And I saw it in my journal, me doing that to myself,
mm,
being like, well, this, and this, but this, and this. And like, I could see the pain and the back and forth and the trying to convince and like really struggling with the truth of like it being time.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And like you allowing me to be like the fact that you let me take my time, even if you saw a bigger truth, that you just like didn't put any pressure on me, allowed me to feel safe and secure to be able to make that decision. Like this is what allowed me to make the decision was like you and a few other really good friends that allowed me to feel safe and secure in my indecisiveness and in my process of fear of letting go and in my uncertainty and just like letting me take as much time as I needed and wanted was super healing. I remember when I first found out that you were uncoupling, I like went into like warrior mode and I was just like, I am here. I am here for you. Like, and I just remember feeling like you were holding this torch, like how courageous you were and how you were so vulnerable in your choice. And I was like, I remember just feeling in awe and like almost looking up to you because I knew how much love you had and how much care and how much you put in all of this care and attention to really come to a space of choosing. So it was like I was just in deep gratitude and reference that you were willing or reverence that you were willing to choose that. Like almost like I need it was like a lifeline for me of like another example out in the world and like really brave one. I remember feeling this like warrior goddess energy, like you were holding this torch, paving this path, and it gave me a new, almost like a new thing to look at out in the world, and it offered so much light for me, honestly.
Thank you. That's so sweet.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I
Thank you.
like trust you so deeply that I was just like, I have, yeah, I just trusted all of it, just
Yeah.
trusted it.
Hmm. Thank you.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. You were with me on that journey. So you got to witness all of it. Yeah. Yeah. And
Mm,
it's such an important sounding board for me and like space holder. So thank you for that. And you still are,
mm.
obviously. Yeah.
And you for me now, even more so. How did you know? How did you know that you're ready to make that choice? How did you get to that point of readiness or to know that it was time to uncouple?
Yeah, like I mentioned, we did relationship coaching, and we also did therapy. And we did when we got to the therapy, we were doing individual and together couples. Um, and like it happened in one session because my thing was like New York was a forcing function. Like my ex was going to be moving there for business, and the plan was to move with him. And I was like, look, we've been together for 6 years, like, and we still both have doubts about kind of getting married. Like, I don't want to make this massive move if we're not on the path to marriage. Like, we don't need to get married tomorrow. We don't need to get engaged tomorrow, but I want to know that we're in this together. We're like life partners. And so we kind of chose to do the couples therapy around getting clarity. And in one of the sessions, he was just like, I don't feel anywhere close to marriage. And I was like, that is the answer. That is the
Mm.
answer. And it kind of hit him because I don't think he realized as he was saying it that that's what that meant. And so we had to just sit there and process like, this is the end. And so I think having that time box on like we had this big move, that was kind of the like we were making our decision by and choosing to do therapy around the getting clarity. But having that moment of like, if after 6 years we still don't have that clarity and it's not a yes, I'm ready for this, that was the answer for us. And hard to accept, but really so thankful that my ex was able to say those words and like and give us this freedom we now have.
Oh man, when we own our truth, it sets also the other person free.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm curious
I
for you.
just love that word relief, that like you got to feel that relief and that you're grateful that he said that
So
because
grateful. It's brave. It's brave to say those words. It really is
yeah.
because it's hard. Yeah. Yeah. So I have so much respect and gratitude that he was able to say those words. Yeah.
Admitting the truth, being willing to risk losing the people that you love by admitting the truth is the most loving thing that you could do for your
1000%.
people.
Yes.
Because then they have, it's like informed consent, then they have all the information that they need to keep
Yeah.
choosing you or to see that you're not being chosen in the way that you
Yeah.
need to be. And it's like
Yes.
hard and scary, but it's also really sad and hard to withhold that information that could actually be really healing and empowering for the other person to then have the alignment that they need, or for you to have the alignment that you need.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So
Mm.
that was our experience. I'm curious how you guys ended up choosing or knew it was time to kind of release each other.
For me, and like I don't know if I would recommend this, or maybe I would, honestly. I support everyone's unique process. For me, I had to uncover every single rock in our garden. I had to ask all the questions and gather as much information as possible. And honestly, I think for me, it was when I realized my body wasn't able to fully relax in the way that it needed to. And after 5 years of being together, there were still some pretty big questions that didn't offer that sense of being able to relax in my body. And I gathered literally as much information as possible. That was
Totally.
really important for me. Through therapy, through couples therapy, through talking
Yeah.
to all my friends, through, we both individually talked to our friends that were doing things differently and gathered our own information. We had weekly check-ins. We literally did everything that we could. We had all these explorations. We were experiencing ethical non-monogamy and getting to know those parts of ourselves. We literally got to know every part of ourselves. And it was like there was no more information to gather. And
Yeah.
there was still this uncertainty whether we were building a future together. And my body really needed that. My body really was craving to get excited about whatever we were creating for the
Mhm.
future. And I felt a lot of sadness not having access to that. And I felt insecurities that didn't feel balanced for what I needed and wanted for
Mhm.
a long-term relationship and commitment.
Totally.
So. yeah, all of those were pieces of information
Yeah.
that I was just like, okay, this is what's happening, even if I wish that it wasn't happening, even if I want to convince myself that it's different. It's almost like I had to take an unbiased look at the situation and be like, this is what's happening. So I hit a point where I was like, I don't think I can gather any more information to get the answer of like, are we choosing each other fully? Are we creating a future
Yes.
together? Which is what I needed
Yeah.
and wanted. If I didn't need or want that, then there would have been no problems.
Yeah.
But it got to the point where I was like, oh, I cannot gather any more information. How would I feel if I didn't have this relationship? Would I gather more information of what I need to feel secure in a relationship? And I started to hear this like almost very like spirit voice come in that was like, yeah, you can't gather any more information here. The next part of your like quest is to know yourself and to know what that feels like, to feel secure if you were to release this relationship. And it's not because I wanted to, it's because I wanted to be in devotion to my sense of security and
Totally.
self-love.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of a lot of same. I mean, we did, I feel like we uncovered every rock as well. We did the open relating, we did the relationship coaching, we did the couples therapy, we did individual therapy. Like we gave it our all. And I think looking back, like what has made me stay firm and like knowing that this was the right choice is like, I'm like, yeah, like I had so much insecurity come up in that relationship because I think we just weren't the right dynamic. And
Mm,
I'm not an anxious person, I'm not an insecure person. And so I'm like, ooh, I like that's a signal to me. Like obviously if you're naturally an anxious person or whatever, it might be a different tell for you. But if you're like naturally a secure person in relationships and confident and you realize you're doubting yourself a lot and like questioning, like feeling really insecure a lot, it's a sign that something's not working. And if you can't
mm,
remedy that with therapy or couples counseling or coaching, it's for me, it's not, you're losing trust with yourself. And so I think that it's like, it's hard to choose yourself.
mm,
Um, but it's necessary. Yeah.
mm. Yeah, sometimes it just is what it is. And if you're wanting to choose a different reality, then there needs to be an action of change to choose that reality. And if the reality is to feel safe and secure and loved, and it continuously is not available in the way
Yeah.
that you need for expansion in your next evolution, then, you know, it can be just a really logical choice to take that next step,
Yeah.
which
And let
feels
me say,
really
like,
hard.
again, like he was the one who technically said it, but we together chose to end things. But like, it's hard when you're in it. Like I was feeling those feelings, but I had so many other excuses for why I was feeling those feelings. Like
Mm,
it's like my purpose, my path, all these things, which are true, right? Like those are also happening. You're not in relationship in a bubble. You are experiencing life and your own dreams and goals and the disappointments and the stressors of family and all the things are also factoring into your life with this person and your dynamic.
mm,
So sometimes it can be hard to filter out like what is the external world and all these other things and what's the relationship and like what's
mm,
me and mine and what's the dynamic between us. And like it can be a mind fuck. And I think it just takes I think it's okay to be gentle with yourself as you untangle those threads and figure it out. And for me, it was important to feel like I gave it everything I had and like so I would have zero regrets about it. Like I would just be
mm,
like, we put our all in,
mm,
we didn't come to this decision lightly. So
mm.
yeah.
Hmm. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. And I don't know what it was like for you, and I almost feel like I could speak for you, but correct me if I'm wrong. I just want to say for our listeners that at least 100% for me, maybe for you as well, I didn't choose ethical non-monogamy as a means of like uh, helping me choose this. It was that within my relationship, there is constantly access to expansion and truth. and that was a part of that, the adventure. There's so many other things that I could list, that allowed us to know ourselves more. But like the intention was from desire for expansion, and was one of the examples given. I would not recommend to, yeah, I would not recommend to choose ethical non-monogamy if you're not in a secure and stable space. It can
Agree.
be, it's
100% agree.
incredible. It is incredibly challenging and vulnerable work, and it's also really beautiful and healing
Yes.
to reveal deeper truths. And yeah, it would be very encouraging of that stable, secure space in order to welcome that in. And I'm so grateful that that was a part um, of our process, and also was incredibly challenging for another episode.
Yeah, 100% agree. Yeah, don't use that as a band-aid. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yes,
just in case like anybody heard
yes,
it in that way, don't.
yes, 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 yes. Thank you for pointing that out. I knew you knew that, but yes, to forget
Yeah,
that
I was
we're
like,
like
I
speaking to
know like
listeners.
all the ins and outs.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes.
All the care and love, and we could like talk about that like all in itself. But yeah, because I feel like it's so easy to take what somebody says and like run with it.
Totally. Yes. I'm so glad you called that out. Very glad you called
Hmm.
that out. Yes. Yeah.
Why don't we close off with, yeah, yeah, a few things, one, two, three, however many you want to share, that you're grateful for during that time, whether it's from your community or yourself, or the uncoupling itself with your ex-partner. Yeah, anything that you're grateful for, any challenges that you want to speak to, and then we'll close off.
Yeah, I would say I am so, 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 so grateful. Like, I feel like she's a magic power that most people don't have, to my twin sister, who I live with, who supported me with fierce, unconditional love through all of it. And like, yeah, she's a superpower. So sorry for all y'all who don't have twins. But, and also my best friends, like,
Go get a twin.
yeah, yeah. I don't know if that's actionable, but a lot of gratitude. And my best friends just being so supportive and so reflective of my power and my beauty and my strength throughout this whole process has been so healing.
Mm,
And then so much gratitude for my ex for doing this journey with me and like being
mm,
willing to understand that this is a journey and like emotions are going to come out and it's not just this like switch you flip, right? And so so much gratitude for him for doing this journey with me. I'm really grateful that he still gets to be in my life in this new format and new relationship. Feels really, really special.
mm.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, gorgeous. Thank you for all of your wisdom. Thank you for your, yeah, the full spectrum. I'm like so honored to have you in my life and to be doing the like hero's journey alongside with you, and just like, yeah, the nitty gritty and the play and the pleasure. I'm so grateful that I got to see you recently in California, and that you helped me like laugh about how insane all this is, and like go a little bit cray cray in the best way. I'm so grateful for you for
I'm so
sharing your
grateful for
heart.
you. And just last words for listeners, if you were in the thick of trying to figure out your relationship, like I am just sending you so much love. Like it is
Yeah.
hard and you are brave and you can do
Yeah.
this. And speaking from a year out, it is better. It is better to have made a decision. It feels so much more freeing. Like you can do this and you will be better for it. So trust
Mhm.
yourself and like trust your inner knowing. Yeah, I
Mhm.
just want to end with those words.
Oh my God, yes. And as somebody who's like still fresh in it, the wisdom that I have for you is to really radically choose that you get to deeply, intimately be the main character of your love story, that
Mm,
that is like so sacred, that there is no good or bad or right or wrong, that there is like truth and aliveness and love in all the experience if you're able and willing to welcome that and to have so much grace and compassion
Yes.
and to let go of time pressure or
Yes.
this like linear experience and to almost just like allow the eros of it, which eros is aliveness, eros is truth and love, allow it to touch you and teach you and show you the medicine of whatever you're, whichever like phase you're in, whether you're in indecision, whether you're in a secure relationship, whether you're in uncoupling or like post breakup loss and you're like learning how you want to do things differently. Yeah, can you have grace and compassion and reverence for all of life because it is a beautiful chaos.
It is, yeah. And have so much love and compassion for yourself and also journal because there's so much wisdom that's coming through during this time. And like, there's so many lessons that are there to be learned. And like, if you write it down, you're going to be like, just so thankful for it. Yeah.
And I would add on to the journaling, like mindfulness meditation has literally been like saving my ass. If you don't know what mindfulness meditation is, like look it up. It is literally just the process of being observant of your experience and allowing your experience to happen as it is. It is so profound and simple, and it's like been a lifesaver for me. And having awesome humans that like remind you how awesome you are.
100%. Lean on your girlfriends. Lean
Yo, and
on your friends.
if you need a cheerleader, hire Ann. If you need like safe place to cry and hold you in your grief, hire me. We got you. Yeah, so much love. Thank you so much, Ann. I love you so much.
Love you.
Hmm.